you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Lincoln County Podcast. We have an amazing guest today. Super excited to bring her to you and hear everything she's got to say. And we're going to get rolling. Just make sure to click, like, and subscribe and share it with your friends. The more listeners, the more power we have, the better platform that businesses in Lincoln County have to promote. So I'm going to turn it over to my guest to introduce herself today, and we will get started.
All right.
Go ahead. There you
go.
I'm
Ashleah Burkeen. I am the owner of the territory of the state of Missouri for Master Networks, which is a networking group here. And I own a business with my husband, Extreme Modeling and Contracting, which is a full service contracting company.
How did you get into Master Networks? I was always kind of wondering like how the, like if it was a territory, if you own the territory, if something like that. So that's, let's start with that. That sounds.
So I'm a business partner. So Chaz Wilson, who's the founder,
Yes.
who created Master Networks, he owns half of it as well. And then I own the state. So I own just the territory of Missouri. And I got into it because I started to be a financial advisor. And I had a space in my office building, and they asked me to launch the third chapter ever launched for Master Networks in the state. So I did that, and then I raised up in leadership, kind of like Casey is our area director. I became what Casey is now. And then when it came time for it to be purchased, they asked me if I knew anybody that was like me, which is a sales tactic, by the way. And me not being able to work for anybody else because I'm an entrepreneur, right? Was like, well, wait a second. Every piece of work I've done, somebody could come in and tell me what to do, and I'm not going to have that. So what about me? And
they were like, oh, yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, right. And so I fell for it. They sold me, and it's been bliss for the past 7 years. So
really, 7 years now?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. So I like people, and I would do anything for free for a good feeling. And I love to see people grow and mature and be motivated, especially when they start their business. And so I've got to watch that, and that's the reward part for me.
Well, I know that when I was building up Boyer Painting, I went to a couple different things. So even with the academy, I went to some different networking groups. I found out about that early on, but it just wasn't for me. Like we were just talking, it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I went to different ones. I didn't like them. I would be sitting there and the guys are asking me questions about a job site. Meanwhile, I'm listening to someone present about their product. I could give a crap less at the moment because I had an issue on a job site. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
So when I went to Casey, I'm like, this would be great for you. Let's come on board. Let's try some of these things out. And so that she tried a few of them, and she just fit well with your guys', I guess, business model or your culture at Master Networks.
Yeah.
That it just works. She tried different ones, and she'd be like, I just didn't care for this one. I'm like, no, it's cool. You're not gonna fit into every one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would, of course, say Master Networks is for everybody,
Yes.
but you have to find when you network what works for you and where you fit in so that you're comfortable. And it's uncomfortable to meet and talk to new people for a lot of people, right? So,
it's their number one fear.
Yeah, but networking is baseline in business. It's one of those foundation pieces, right? Get your calendar right, the 5 people you hang out with, network. Lucky for people like you and my husband, who it's not their jam.
Yeah.
They have people like Casey and I, who that is our lane and that's what we're good at. And so we can kind of help you guys in the business side of that things. But if you're on your own, starting your business, it's baseline. You should be networking and trying different ones out until you find something that fits. And then use leverage if it's not your thing, right? So as the business builds, you put in one of your office people or one of your guys, one of your sales reps to network for you.
And I did that. I would go and do them. I knew they were important. I joined one, joined two. I don't remember. I joined a couple. It's because I did it through the martial arts school originally. They've had that 15 years. And I didn't understand the real power of the networking group, and that is the people in them. One of the things I noticed as Boyer Painting started to grow, I would go on job sites. Hey, how'd you hear about us today? Oh, well, you were in the Dardine Prairie We Love Horses with Blue Spots group. You were mentioned. I posted in there that, I only cut my grass 2 days a week page, or some random off the wall pages. They'd be like, yeah, 4 people told us that it was great. I'm like, okay. And the control freak in me was like, oh, wish I could see what was in there so I could go in and say thank you or follow up. Then I started realizing it was all the networking. it wasn't just our clientele. Because people would be like, man, you guys must paint for everyone. I'm like, no, it's just me and 3 guys. Or, well, there's 5 of us in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was the networking groups. And that's when I really started to realize, like, I would go to bid people's houses that would be almost like, I don't want to say aggressive, but they'd be like, well, everybody said to use you, so we figured we'd call.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you didn't have to. I don't want you to feel guilted into it. I got better shit to do today. Like I had 8 other bids today I can go to. It's not a big deal. I don't mean to inconvenience you.
Yeah.
But we were referred by so many people because of our network from networking.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, that when Casey and I talk, that people come into your groups, they show up 3 times, and get any work off this.
Right.
What would your, we asked Casey this when she was on, what is your advice to those people coming in, or that are that really just don't understand that it's not just you sitting around a table with 5 people having breakfast?
Right. I think that you should go in with an open mind, even if you're nervous, right? And make it a goal to connect with at least one person. A huge room full of people is super intimidating, I'm sure, right? But if you can connect with one person, then the next time you come, you connect with the second person. It kind of alleviates that pressure of like, okay, I have to pass out my business card to all these people. They're never actually going to know who I am. And my business card's probably going to be in the parking lot on my way out on the ground, or in their center console of their car, right? So going with the open mind to make friends and to build relationships on that piece, stick it out a year. I always tell everybody, give it a year, right? And put some work in. Like, it's networking, not net guaranteeing.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You have to make sure that you are introducing yourself to people, inviting people out to coffee outside of that weekly meeting to get to know them on a little different level. We do something in Master Networks called BOND, B-O-N-D, and the B in BOND stands for Build on Common Interests. We live in Missouri. What high school did you go to?
Yeah.
Right? Do you like the Cardinals? I mean, that's going to open up a conversation for you to get to know somebody that then spirals down into this long-lasting relationship and referral partnership.
Well, and that's so important with what it is, because that was one of my turnoffs with a lot of the groups is everybody got up, they had their sales speech, and then you had to get out the door because there was always that one guy that was like trying to close the new guy at every event. And you would sit there and I would make fun of them in my head. I'd watch them walk the room, and I'm like, and they were the professional. They didn't do anything. They really didn't have much of a business, but they were that professional person at the networking group. Before we dropped out of another group, and I won't say names, I don't want to bash it, that was in Chesterfield. One of the reasons we dropped out, Casey had just gotten into that space, was very nervous. She had a speaking part that day, which we've all heard her bitch about her speaking, having to get up. Now, she kills it now, but in the beginning, she'd bring me.
Yeah.
And this guy turned around and kind of scolded her about it. And I was like, listen, Dewey, dumb shit. Like, he had achieved nothing. He was the professional dork at the networking thing, that his only business was whatever he could scheme out of everybody in that room. Sure. Like, he was that person at one of those it was one of the big groups. And I was like, just quit. I was like, that is absolutely a joke. I was like, first of all, he doesn't make anywhere near what we're doing these days. And then to turn around, because it was very scolding. And I was like, I was like, you're done with that group. And I think right after that, someone from the group called for something. We couldn't make the date work, and they really were ignorant about it because we're in the group together. We get first priority. I'm like, dude, you don't get, listen, I'm an entrepreneur because I don't listen well to other people.
Yeah.
Big guy. Yeah. Like, don't ever say you got to do this. But that's what's been so great I've noticed with Master Networks. I'm not saying this because you're here, but you guys click. You guys work together. You guys share each other's stuff. You guys, doesn't matter who's in the group. Casey could be a part of 5 different meetings. And she'll share, if someone looks for a plumber, she'll share each plumber. Yeah. You guys all put it out there in a very fair way because you're networking with people that want to network. Yeah. And you've got somebody coming in and teaching you guys and working with you guys on a good platform that everything's very honest. Everything's very transparent. If you're not a fit for the group, you're not a fit for the group. Right. Now, 99.9% people are, but you have those people that'll go do stuff just to be like, I knew it wasn't for me.
Right.
I went one day. I didn't make any jobs that day. And it's like, yeah, you also did speak to anyone, talk to them, give out your cards. Like,
yeah. Yeah. We didn't come from contribution. One of our core values in Master Networks is contribution. And that means don't come into a networking group thinking like, what am I going to get out of this? Your mindset should be, who can I help? And then you get that back tenfold. And that sounds cheesy, but that's literally the way that we operate. We never expect you to come in and say, Matt, how many referrals did you pass this week, right? We don't keep tally. That is entirely up to you to build those relationships to make that happen. And if you're not networking, right, and you're just coming every single week and sitting quietly in the corner, you're probably not going to get out of it what we're promising you. So I make it very, very clear, and so is Casey, that give it a year, pass as many referrals as you can to see what you get back. And the great thing about Master Networks is everything's strategic. So if you were getting a lot of leads but never closing the referral, we want to track that in our hub so that we can say, maybe it's a closing issue.
Yes.
You know, how do we coach you in closing your clients? Because you're getting a lot of leads and referrals, we're just not closing it, right? So it's very strategic in that way. But yeah, you have to work the network. You don't just get to show up and say, here I am. Or you could put your face on every billboard from here to Mizzou and you'd get business, but it just doesn't work that way.
well, no. And the thing that people, I find too, so with venturing into the coaching realm, kind of happened unofficially by just different friends of mine deciding to go out on their own, calling me saying, hey, can you help? And me wanting to help and feeling fulfilled helping. But then you talk to some people and it's like, well, who'd you give your business card to this week? No, I don't have business cards.
Right.
Okay, we need to start there. What's your logo look like? Is it legible? I'm a logo snob. I hate it when I see a logo on a truck or a van or something. The kids, Ben and Jocelyn get into it too. They're like, what is that? I'm like, what do you guys think it is? Because I'll ask them. And if it's a good logo, they can tell me what the business is.
Yeah.
My biggest compliments, I had some old sign guys like from that painted signs in like the old days before you could get them printed.
Yeah.
Stop me when I first launched Boyer Painting. Like, man, I love your logo. I'm like, really? I was like, because I designed it off an old school one. They're like, man, you can tell what that is up the street. I would have painted 20 things like that back in the day, like old school, like real sign painters.
Yeah.
And so I look at the things like that these businesses, and they forget they got to work at it. Mm-hmm. Just because you've started a Facebook page and you've told 2 people that you have a business, it's not just going to flow in. Like you said, you can put billboards everywhere, but if you don't call them back. Right. Lucas Farrell and I have had a ton of talks about this. He works with different clients that would not follow up because he would call me. He's like, he called me and Casey and he goes, who are you outsourcing your follow-up to? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, who's responding to everything? I said, pretty much me or Casey if I don't get to it right away. And he's like, you're kidding me. I was like, wait, they've got people that'll outsource. Like, you can outsource this? I was like, no, I want that connection with the customer. He goes, I have clients all the time that want more work. I get them more work. And then there's 10 unread messages in their inbox. You gotta reach out. I literally stepped off the mats last night to get a drink of water. Someone messaged the Instagram for Boyer Painting, which is wild because I don't hardly post on it. Yeah. About a painting bid in Wentzville. Boom. Said, hey, what's your number? What's your address? Casey will be in contact in the morning. Took the amount of time for me to walk up to the desk and get my bottle of water to respond, set my phone down, go back to teaching. Yeah. With the networking groups, like you said, it's working. They have to come to them. They have to follow up. Yeah. So many people seem to forget that part of the phase.
Well, they forget that piece, especially when we do that tag chain and these groups that you were talking about. Yeah. Where they tag your name 1,000 times. Master Networks is really good at that, where we'll take a screenshot and put it in our group chats and be like, go get it, go tag Boyer, right? And we kind of, typically they'll reach out to whoever's tagged the most. However, some people just think that your name's tagged and you're just going to wait. Casey and I are always like, no, you guys, like, we might tag your name 25 times, but some people are not, like, they're waiting for a phone number or something. You have got to reach out to them and say, hey, I was tagged in your posts almost instantly when the first tag happens. You should be doing that, not waiting until everybody else tags you. Yeah.
No, because that just builds your confidence and the customer's confidence in you as you've already reached out, introduced yourself. What can I help you with? I do it all the time with people be like, hey, looking for something for a kid in Troy. Hey, own Boyer Academy. If you'd like to come in, we have 2 weeks free. Yeah. And they'll come in, they'll be like, yeah, I got your message. We'll talk or whatever they're like. But man, the whole time we were talking, Boyer was tagged. like I said, I've shown up before. People are like, I don't know. Everybody said to call you, so here you are.
Yeah.
The first time someone was like standoffish about it just blew me away. I remember it was in Eolia, and I was like, well, it didn't mean you had to call me. Like, if you didn't like me, you didn't have to. I mean, I didn't have to drive out here. But that's the important part with any of this stuff. They forget the work. But that's what's so great is the power of those networks. You can't make that connection just through social media. You have to go and organically connect with people. That's and that is something I legitimately talked to a friend. I'm not going to say his name. He asked me about the networking stuff. He is super accomplished. Multiple businesses. Don't know how much he makes, but he is super successful. Great guy, gives back, does all this stuff. Has performed, we'll say, in front of thousands of people.
Nice.
Told me his biggest fear is coming to a networking group and have to stand up and say his name. Told me that the other day. I was like, no way. He goes, you'd never think it with me, would you? And I was like, no, I thought you were just too busy. He goes, absolutely scares the living hell out of me, which I would never think that because I don't care.
Right.
And even coming from being really shy as a kid, being bullied in school, being picked on for being fat, I don't care. I go to any of those, get up and talk. I talk to anybody. I talk to a street sign. I don't care.
Yeah.
But there are some people that scares the hell out of them. I've had people I've reached out to about this podcast like,
yeah,
I'm scared. I'm like, it's just two people talking with microphones and a camera. Like there's no public. It's not a live studio audience like Family Matters, like, you know, in the 90s. It's just two people chatting. What do you suggest people to try to get over that?
Going back to just connecting with that one person, right? When you walk into a room, because I don't know a stranger either, right? The gas station attendant in my town knows my whole life story. I know hers. So she knows whenever I'm not there a day, right? But there are groups where I have went to walk in that are much bigger that meet once a month. You know what groups I'm talking about, right? Where I'm intimidated and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know anybody here. They're all friends with each other. So I understand that feeling. I have to switch my mindset and kind of trick it. So I will pull up and in my car, play like whatever that jam song is for me, you know? And I'm just going to get my energy up and we're just going to walk in with confidence and like a little pep in our step and meet that one person that I can sit next to and eat lunch and kind of just soundboard off that one person. Because I think going in with the intention of I'm going to pass business cards to everybody or I have to talk to everybody, it is so overwhelming for you. And you already feel like all eyes are on you because they meet together every single month and know each other.
Yes.
Typically, right? So
it's like walking in the high school cafeteria again.
Yes. On the first day of school, we're like, who do I have lunch with? Yes.
That same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me personally, it's just pumping up my mindset and then finding that one person, not focusing on the entire room.
That's kind of what I would do when I went to him in the beginning. I would wait for that person that invited me. Get there early and wait for them to walk up and then, hey, what's up? And walk in with them because that walking into the unknown was even for someone that's outgoing, you're like, what's on the other side of door number 1?
Yes.
And seeing it and being comfortable with it. But it's, again, Ron and I were just talking before this with your advertising, like you can run ads, you can post, but if you're not getting out there and doing anything organic and you're not meeting people and you're not building that network of other people that cheer for you, you're not going to take off.
Right.
And I remember just begging Casey, I'm like, I need you to go to these because with us hiring on employees, we need to get the word out more and just painting jobs and worrying about client A telling future client A what we did isn't enough volume. Right. We've got to get this out to more people and we've got to get it out in that aspect. And that's what I wanted. And I wanted her to be that person because I knew I was going to communicate with someone a lot. If they were going to be running the office, doing the back end, taking care of that, I didn't really want to have that much like that relationship with someone other than my spouse. I wanted that to be her. Sure. I wanted to, if I've got to call someone 25 times a day because we're running a business together, I want it to be my wife.
Sure.
So that was like such a big thing for us was that level of it. And that's really and truthfully when I can say that we started doing more and more and more. One of the big things for us that it helped was when she started going around all the networking groups, she realized actually how well we were doing, and it built her confidence up a little because she went to a couple that one had other painters in it that day. And they had well-known names, and everybody had to get up and kind of talk about what they're doing. And one stood up and was like, we have 3 employees doing this and that. And Casey's like, what? I've seen their bill. They got 3? I had, I think we had 9 at that point or something. She's like, whoa. And then another one got up and was like, oh, we're doing all this and we're doing that. That night was DMing her, begging for work, and was like, man, my guys haven't worked in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I can you guys throw us a bone? I said, let them starve to death, but we ended up giving them one like job or something. I think they botched it too. But for her, like, I seen how big we were, and I knew for being in that space, like, that we were doing some big things.
Yeah.
For her, it really opened her eyes to like, whoa, these other companies that she assumed were like, because they were way older than us.
Yeah.
She was like, damn. Because I remember her coming home, she's like, okay, we are doing some things right. So it really helped the confidence on that end too. When you're getting out there and working with other businesses, talking and seeing things, you're not just in your own head in your office.
Yeah. Well, then I think too, like the people in your networking group that you've built relationships with, they get to see that growth in you. So not only are you witnessing it and you're getting that confidence, but then everybody around you is like, wow, Boyer's crushing it, right? Extreme's crushing it.
Yes.
And then so you get this sense of confidence, like, wow, other people are noticing how good we're doing. And when we talk about it, other people are picking up on what we're doing. And then I'm sure Casey and you probably have gotten where people ask you, like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? Or what am I doing wrong, right?
All the time. I get people all the time. That's what kind of pushed me into the coaching space and wanting to pursue it more, was friends of mine calling, other painters I know, people saying, well, hey, why don't you talk to Matt about what they're doing and what we did. And in the beginning, it was stuff I didn't, it just came, I don't want to say common sense to me, but it was just like, cool, let's do this. Whereas I didn't realize other people might not have thought of that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was networking, talking to people, meeting in those groups and working in those groups and doing things in those groups and doing things. You can't just limit yourself to one thing.
Right.
And that's what's been so cool at Master Networks, is all the stuff you guys have done, and you're just your group with, since Casey started, like, you guys all work so well together. Her and I had talked as I transitioned into coaching more that I'm going to find her painters to put in. I'm like, we don't need to take every seat. We don't, I'm not trying to be the biggest one around. And people are weird about that. If like we talk to someone, like I have a friend that I've worked with, I'm like, hey, Casey could show you. And they're like, she's going to show us how to go and network. Like I know a guy, there was a guy that joined one of the groups that was actively trying to poach my employees and actively bad-mouthing me while Casey was teaching him to network. And I found it hilarious.
Wow.
Because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm confident with what we do. But they want to know how to do it. And I told her, I'm like, bring in other painters.
Yeah.
What can we do to help grow it? Because it's just more people.
Yeah.
And if everyone around us is successful, we're all successful.
Yeah.
You know, just the growth that the different ones of you guys that have been doing this for so long together. I'm not even sure how many years Casey's been actively doing it now. The growth everybody's had, epic, extreme, all of you guys, like it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
Not just the businesses, but the personal growth everyone's went through.
Yeah.
Is awesome. And we may not all work on the same jobs together sometimes. There's things that you guys are calling out we couldn't make work. There's things Epic said we couldn't make work. Like there's things that don't work sometimes, but being mature enough to not be like, well, screw that group. They're not going to use me on everything. And I've met people that have that attitude. They think because they join a group, everybody has to use them. Well, that's not ours. Or they think because they join a group, they have to refer everyone in the group. They're like, well, I already have my people I refer.
Yes.
It's like, well, you could still refer them. Casey preaches that to people all the time. You can refer too.
Yeah. Which she does. She does a very good job at it. And you would be shocked, well, maybe not, of how many people, when it comes to the abundance for scarcity mindset, how many adults in business actually have a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And that's just a weak mindset, because we're best friends with Epic. They're a contracting company as well. They've bid the same work before. Neither got the job, but they both bid the same work, right? There's enough work for everybody. And you really limit yourself when you go in thinking like, oh, it's just me. Like I have to have the best. How dare you also tag that plumber, right?
Yes.
Because here's the thing. Every client is different. And I'll get asked a lot, how do you, as the owner of a networking group, you obviously are in every chapter or you know everybody. How do you pick what real estate agent you to use? Well, like I take turns personally.
Yeah.
But I also have to match my client's personality with the person that's going to be working on their home or painting or whatever it is. Because if I have a introvert client that doesn't like to talk to people, and the decision maker is all about the numbers and the money, and the wife's about the feelings, I have to make sure I match whoever I'm referring that's going to speak to the decision maker.
Yes.
Right? If I send somebody that's very or extroverted and outgoing, that may be a turnoff for that client that's more kind of laid back, right?
Yes.
So you become a resource. And if you're looking at it any other way than becoming a resource by knowing all these people and having an abundance mindset, you're doing it wrong.
No, and the scarcity mindset too. Like I've looked at jobs and told people this isn't our cup of tea. This isn't going to work out. I've walked in, they've said, we want this. I'll be like, you know what? I actually used to carry business cards of other painters I knew that would maybe throw up some trim for a person. I get people all the time, hey, can you nail up a couple pieces of trim? I personally can, but our vans aren't outfitted for that. We're painters.
Yes.
So when it was just me, I would do a little of that, but I've went to people's house where I'm like, no. And I'll text one of the guys I know, be like, hey, I'm in this area. Would you be in? Oh yeah, I do a lot of trim work for my customers. Great. I would give them their card. Here, call them. And people are weirded out by it. It's like, no, I'm doing good. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about trying to badmouth the other person that showed up. Because people like, they've probably done it to you guys, like they'll leave business cards laying out to where like you could see they've had some of your competition there. And I just giggle. Yeah. I'll text some of them because I'm friends with a lot of them. Because I've got a bunch of guys I know that are just them painting, and that's all they want. They are doing it more for ease of life. They know they can knock out a really big job. Maybe that's all they need to do that month. They're not trying to scale, whereas like I was trying to scale so much. So there would be things I would throw their direction, and they may call me and be like, hey, this guy called me about bidding 36 apartment units. I can't do that.
Right.
Who do you got?
Right.
Oh, cool. We could take a look at that, and vice versa. Or I'll went and looked at local jobs that was too little for me to send someone to.
Yeah.
So if one of my guys could do it on the side, because I'll give it to an employee as a side job, which weirds customers out too, because I'll tell the guys, you take your van over there. I'm not going to pay you to go over. It's a $120 wall.
Yeah.
I can't pay you to do that. It doesn't make any sense, but you go do it on a Saturday. I don't care. Take your van. I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
That really throws people off. But I seen it in the early years when I first wrote my introductory page on Boyer Academy. I'm trying to think exactly. It was I wanted people to come in and try the school, and I gave them advice on if they were looking into other schools to meet the instructors and find people that matched with them. And I still tell people that you're going to come in my school, I might not match with you. Your kid may not like the way I teach. I'm sarcastic. I'm fun with the class, but I'm not like goofing off. We are lined up. We are firm, but I am me and I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
So if someone comes to me and they're looking for X, Y, or Z, I've referred them. I'm really good friends with a school in Wentzville. But we used to be a mile apart, not even a mile. And I think it's May Road that runs behind Target. I think it's May Road. He was at this end of it. I was at this end of it. And I would refer people to him if their background fit what I knew he taught. We're still really good friends. And he would do the same. People would call me and be like, oh, I talked to Rich and he actually said you do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a great fit. And we would do that with each other.
Yeah.
And people thought we were nuts.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, and I learned that from people that have been in business longer than me that had that mindset. I was like, okay, that's the way to be.
Yeah.
Because the dudes running around or the people running around that don't want to refer anyone, or like you said, they show up to your group and then say you guys refer them and another plumber, or say you refer 2 painters, they get upset. I don't know. I guess I'm all about competition. Sure, refer both of us, and now I'm gonna make sure I get that job. Like that's my mindset. I wouldn't be mad about it.
Well, you probably don't have that mindset of like there's competition. Like for us, there's competitors, but there's not competition. Do you know what I mean? We go into it with that mindset. But also on the other end of that, to have a scarcity mindset, that limits you from having clarity on your business as well. So if you don't have the clarity of like this is my target market, this is where I'm going for, and you're just grabbing everything. Like for extreme, in the beginning you do that. Don't hear me wrong, right?
No, yes.
In the beginning you do that.
Yes.
But eventually you get to a place where like you can fire your clients, you can say no. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you don't have clarity on what direction you're going in your business, that also I think adds to that scarcity mindset a little bit too.
Well, I think a lot of people try to have that idea that's I'm only going to do X, Y, and Z in the beginning, and they cripple themselves. I did so many things in the beginning. One of the stories I like to tell is I took on a builder and I was told I was going to be their only painter.
Mm-hmm.
I seen a house getting framed up across the street, drywalled, and I said, hey, when am I painting that one? Oh, you're not painting it, different painter. Superintendent told me that. I said, okay. Text the builder. I was like, hey, man, I'm cool. I'm not mad, but do you have 2 painters working in here? What's your plan? Because in my head, I was like, okay, I see this one over there is getting taped, so I'm going from this one to that one.
Yeah.
Do I not need to plan that? Because I'm just I double check everybody.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're the only painter. He said, but they're flooring that house. I think he got back with me on like a Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
They were flooring it Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he told the other painter no, but the word didn't get back to me. I said, no problem. I'll be ready for flooring in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed spotlights, 2 employees, a Mountain Dew, and I went over there at like 9 o'clock at night and sprayed it out with spotlights. Sent him a text at midnight when I got done, whatever it was. It said, house is ready. Good luck on the flooring. Would I do that now? Absolutely not, unless it was a client that I just was in a pickle and they called me and said, Matt, I'm in a spot. Okay, I'll make something happen. But in the beginning, I couldn't. If I would have told him no, he'd have been like, no problem. And guess what? That other painter would have got that subdivision.
Right.
Because of a stupid, well, I ain't going over there at 9 o'clock at night attitude. And I meet so many painters that are business owners that are struggling, but then they'll in the process of telling you that they're struggling, they'll also tell you why they're struggling.
Yeah.
With that. And you can't, you just got to go into every job, every bid and put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
I go in, I'm me, I'm transparent with people. I tell them how I'm going to be. And some people are going to like me. Some people aren't. Mm-hmm. Some people don't like the fact that I show up clean cut for a job site. A lot of people, you're a painter. Yeah. That's how Lucas and I became friends, was my Vans. He loved my Van shoes. But people would be like, I had bright colored Vans on. It would weird people out. They expected me to look like I walked off a job site.
Yeah.
Whereas other more business professional clients would like the fact that I didn't show up their house with paint all over me.
Sure.
So it was a win-win. I just had to take the clients that fit me.
Yeah.
I'm Julie Forster with Crafty Midwestern Mommy, your local boutique embroidery and fabric store. I sell fabric as well as sewing notions and also teach classes. And then we also, on the other side of our business, do machine embroidery, custom apparel for local businesses, and just personalized gifts. Again, the store's name is Crafty Midwestern Mommy, and that's how you can find us on all social media platforms as well as our website.
Yeah.
And you got to learn that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But see, that's another important thing about a networking group. You're getting in the room with other people where you can learn stuff like that. You're going to have people like yourself that are experienced that can give you that guidance.
Mm-hmm.
There may be someone there, it's not even the same trade you're in, but they may have some tidbits that you could take if you have that open mindset.
Yes. Yes. You have to have an open mindset. And I like to push that on a lot of the people that come in, because we do offer world-class training inside of our meetings. And you'll have people come in and be like, well, I'm not here for the training. That's business 101. Yet they've never perfected half of it, right? And you're never too old to learn and never too young to teach, because then you have the younger generation coming in and offering advice. And sometimes the older people are like, I've been in business for 20 years. What could you teach me? Like everything. Things evolve, right?
Yes.
So I think that too is you should also go into networking groups learning and understanding that there's a learning curve in business and in general, and people in the room with you, everybody's at a different level, and you could pick up something from every single person.
And I'll tell you what, the successful people that I follow and that I've had the opportunity to learn from would all tell you that there are guys that I follow that have made $100 million that on their social media, and I've never met them in person, but I guarantee if they came into one of your groups and you had a business thing, they would sit there and attentively listen, because they may take away something from it.
Yeah, sure.
I will go to different things, or I will be in different coaching groups, and I will be like, okay, how can I apply this? Because I have the painting business and martial arts, two totally backward, totally different businesses. Yeah. How can I apply this? Say they may be talking to someone that owns a gym or a supplement company. Yeah. How can I apply this to what I'm doing? And because of that mentality, I leave every single call with something. Some more than others.
Yeah.
You can do that. Like if you have a 25-year-old getting up to present, maybe they've done some really cool stuff you haven't. I happen to be friends with a guy that's way younger than me that's bought cooler cars and started a bigger business and done a lot of stuff that I've got 16 years on him. And I reached out to him the other day about coaching me on building my coaching business. I was like, you've done it, Kyle, you've done it. Show me what you're doing. So I don't, because I know he told me, he's like, I've made a lot of mistakes. Cool. Yes. Tell me what you did, because that's what I learned from, but I want to streamline this process a little bit because I know someone that's done it.
Yeah.
Show me what you've done. There are people that I guarantee wouldn't reach out to him because of the age difference. They'd be like, well, I'm 40 years old. Fuck, you gonna teach
100%.
me. And that's that mindset. But I've also never met anyone that was really, really successful that had that mindset.
No. Well, and successful people, so like the Grant Cardones and those people, probably people that you're mentored by, right? They have business coaches for a reason.
Yes.
Business coaches have business coaches.
Yes.
You don't have all the answer. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I'm not really open to know you because I want to learn.
I want to say one of the first things I went to, they said you should put 10% or 15% of your income every year into your coaching and learning. It was probably Cardone. I want to say it was him on getting a coach and having someone teach you and work with you because they're going to see things differently. And that was something in the beginning. I was like, well, whatever, you're just trying to sell me on your program. But as I've grown and learned, I'm wanting to learn how to monetize social media. So I've been researching monetization coaches. I've been wanting to build a coach, researching different people that have built coaching programs, not just taking it with a grain of salt, like going in, okay, they got 100,000 followers. I go and watch their videos. How much interaction do they got? Did they buy fake followers? Like looking at it, finding people that are real because they can really help you with a lot of stuff. Yeah. My martial arts instructor tied my 6th degree around my waist, told me to be a teacher and to be a leader in martial arts, you had to forever be a student. And that stuck with me because he's one of the most respected world level martial artists out there. And to tell me that, hey man, he goes, I learned. And he actually was getting ready for a big testing that was more to my background. Yeah. And he was like, hey, can you help me out over here? And I'm like, bro, you're like one of the most straight people. He's like, yeah, but you grew up doing these forms. I didn't. Will you help me through some of them? Dude, a bond was built there by me helping him. But what it did for me was teach me that anyone can help you. Yeah. You can go into one of those networking groups and there may be somebody there that's only been in it for a year, but they may have come across some stuff that maybe you're struggling with. So what did they do with it? That's what I'm learning about this. Just having this podcast, talking to business owners, like I've learned so much and found how many stories relate. And it's so enjoyable. It fires me up for the day. That I want to do it all the time, but I love learning. Yeah. And picking up those tidbits and finding out, like, I can't wait till it gets to a level like try and have on the Tim Grovers, or I can go be on the Sean Whalen or the Grant Cardones. Like one day, and it'll happen, but like, I can't wait for that day to get here. I'm like, all right, I got to speed this along because this is dope. Can't wait to be on a podcast with someone that's got that type of knowledge. So just like everything they say. That was one of my big things with Cardone when I went to 10X. All these people were there, thousands. You've probably seen what they charge for those things. And the people around me were doodling and they were jumping up and at break time, they're like, let's go. And they're holding up their phones, making their videos, Grant Cardone, Uncle G, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Grant had a notebook and he turned from the audience at one point away. He's like, this one ain't for you. This one's for me. And he turned his back to us so he could write better and interview the person. He's like, and he was giddy and it was genuine. And I was like, man, if this dude is I was like, this dude held this event, got us all to buy tickets. We're getting all this information out of him. Shaquille O'Neal was there, John Travolta, Dana White, you name it. Like the amount of information, I page after page after page, you couldn't absorb it. He was so excited.
That's awesome.
That he was like, whatever, thanks for paying for all these people to come here, guys. But this one was for him. He had his notebook. And I literally were watching people that spent thousands to go like I did doodle. It goes back to mindset. Yeah. If you didn't have the open mindset you did, if you had a scarcity mindset, you could never do your position because you'd be too worried about bringing in someone that maybe does what you do. Yeah. And that's why you do good at it.
Yeah. Well, I did. So I owned the networking group, right? And at the time, I think we had 12 chapters and we were the only GC. And I don't know if that's because, well, part of it is because GCs, old school GCs, they had carbon copy invoices, like networking wasn't a thing for them, right? Yeah. And that was one of the reasons. But the other reason was I feel like people were afraid to invite GCs because I owned it and they saw me all the time.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
And I'll never forget being like, please, you guys, like invite a GC. There's so much opportunity here. I can't take on the work. We're one team. I would love also to, whenever I'm busy, to have a GC that I know, like, and trust to refer to. And then it just started to trickle down. We started getting GCs in every chapter. Now I have great groups. My soundbite actually for a construction company, at the end I say, what our bottom line is, but no job is too small, so call us, because I work with some of the best GCs in the region. And I say that in my soundbite because I want them to know, like, I want to be the resource. I want to be the who do you know person.
Yeah, we had that problem at one point. We got so booked out, I would go to people and they're like, oh man, that's not going to work. And I tell them, like, we're already working Saturdays. I can't work overnight. I'm maxed out. There's really, because I'm a people pleaser, I'm like, there's really nothing I can do. And also, if it's like a real estate agent, the house is empty. That's our bread and butter. The profit margin on an empty house is way better than anything else. But I didn't have anyone to refer them to because everybody I knew was busy.
Yeah.
And it was rough because I wanted to be able to help them and I wanted to be able to give them a good one, especially my agents that I worked with. We got to a point where there were agents that had worked with me since it was just me painting on the weekends, and I couldn't get to their stuff legitimately because we were booked out 3 months and I had no one to refer them to. And it was really rough. And my guys were working every day, overtime out the wazoo, to where they didn't want a side job.
Yeah.
So it's good when you're a contractor and you have someone else to refer them to. And I've referred people work. Like, I've referred someone another company. The other company's done well for them. And they come back to me because they're like, you know what, you're honest enough to do it. A friend of mine at a tournament recently was telling one of the parents from my school, we grew up together, went to school together. And when he called me about martial arts, I was like, bro, you live by Mr. Kramer's school. Go there. It's right by your house. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. And he was telling him, he goes, dude, I was floored. I swore Matt was going to be like, oh, bro, you got to come to me. We've known each other. I knew he wasn't going to drive from St. Charles to Troy.
Right.
I knew he wasn't. And his daughter still trains there, has been there for years. It's a great home for him. But he was telling someone that he was blown away that I did that. For me, I've had a lot of friends reach out over the years that wanted to come train with me. We had a lifelong bond.
Yeah.
They ain't driving that far. No. Not 4 nights a week. Like, with the painting, it's a little different because I go to them. But for the dojo, it wasn't that. So I always be like, so where do you live at? Oh, we live here. Oh, I got because I have a great network of martial artists all over St. Louis. Go check this place out.
Yeah.
Let me shoot them a text. Let them know you're going to be there. That builds that confidence to where then they tell every friend of theirs that lives near you about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I could have lied to him, been like, oh man, you're not going to come to me. Like, come on, we're bros. Like, you can't take your kid to anyone else. Like, I could do this.
Right.
And then ruin them on martial arts, ruin that future for that kid, and maybe cost yourself a bunch of clients down the road.
Yeah.
When just being of that mindset. And I get it in the beginning.
Sure.
In the beginning, when you're scraping by and you need every job, every lead, everything you get, that's a really hard stance to take. But if you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had to have seen a lot of success with that.
What, throwing things at the wall until they stick?
No. I mean, people overcoming that mindset.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, we were one of those people. I remember when we first started out, we were getting jobs, and we work a lot in St. Louis County. That's our bread and butter. And I remember getting a job in Florissant, and the guy used to call us the homeowner. We were finishing his basement is how it started. And the guy used to call Ryan his guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Yep.
And then we got 5 houses down the street and our sign was in the yard. And so Ryan had like this connection with this guy where he called him one night, like midnight, and was like, hey, there's a draft or something silly, right? And I remember Ryan running out there to take care of it. And because Ryan was his guy, you know? And I, like, by the 3rd time this guy was calling him 11 o'clock at night, I remember being like, babe, we have business hours. Yeah. And he does this to you because you open that door the first time. You need to say no, like he's a normal client. And if you aren't his guy anymore, then you weren't really his guy to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had to have that growth mindset where we were like, oh, we just need the money, and he loves us, and he's gotten us 5 referrals, you know? But like at some point, you have to be like,
And that's a hard one. I've been there. Casey and I have been there. That was one of the big things when we added the offices at the shop, was to help that not run downstairs and jump on the computer at 8 o'clock to do stuff. And you do have to do it to a point. If you're sitting there and you got your phone out after dinner, respond back to something.
Sure.
It's not going to kill you. But like you said, the running out at 11 o'clock at night. And it's hard because I guarantee Ryan was like myself. You've got those clients that you're like,
yes,
you damn near on, invited to Thanksgiving. Like,
yes.
And a lot of clients with what you do and what I do, that's how you get that word of mouth. You're their guy. I'm their painter. That was one of the things we found when we started running mass amounts of social media ads is I had never had to close deals before. I would go in, meet people, give them a bid. I was trusted. Their cousin, aunts, uncles, buddies, brothers, nephew used me, whatever. Confidence was there.
Yeah.
When we went to running ads, they didn't know me. So then it was like, oh, now I got to close them. Like this has to be a sale. I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I was so used to dealing with people because that's how it had always been. Hey, my agent called, said you've been, oh, yes, I painted for them. I've painted for Shelly for 15 years. Yeah, you're Shelly's guy. And there was no closing it. There was no bidding against anyone else. It was they just need a price and they may come take care of them. And that is really hard.
Yeah.
Especially as you start getting employees and you start growing your business and you have a family. That was the big thing for me was once the kids got old enough that I didn't want to not be there all weekend. And I realized that it didn't matter how big the business got. If I wasn't at home, it wasn't worth it.
Right.
My body was falling apart. I mean, Rich and I worked, my main foreman, we worked over a full year, 7 days a week, all day and all night on the weekends until both of us, our bodies were just like, dude, you're done. I remember texting him. I'm like, we're not working today. I've been up all night throwing up with a migraine. He's like, oh, thank God. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm like, yeah, we're 2 days off. We'll recap, like rest. And luckily the customer was really cool with it. They were a repeat customer.
Nice.
And I just told them, I can't do it no more. I was like, and they were like, we get it. Cause I'd been at their house all weekend. Yeah. So they were like, it's cool. See you in 2 days. Yeah. And we had a talk when I went back. I was like, I really apologize for putting you guys on this spot, but we're done. She's like, you and Rich looked done. Yeah. You guys looked terrible. I was like, good to know. Didn't realize we were looking that rough. I guess we made the right choice. But that's so hard. But then again, I find people that try to have that mindset on day one, and no, you can't. You got to earn your stripes. You got to build up to that. Yeah. You got to build up because, as you know, customers will not respect your business hours. No. They disrespect the living shit out of them if you let them. Yeah. If you don't let them, it's fine. Right. One of the books, Tools for Titans or Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Mm-hmm. That was my big takeaway from the book. So what it is, it's have you ever read any of Tim Ferriss's stuff?
I have not.
I never was a big fan of him because he has like one book about like the 4-hour workday or something. I was like, slacker, hippie. Like I was like 4-hour workday, come on. But I should probably go read the book, see what it's about. But he has a huge podcast. And the book is all like lessons from each podcast, little segments. Some of it's on, and he even tells you that you're not supposed to read the book cover to cover. You're supposed to pick the stuff that fits you. Because some stuff is on, that was back when keto was real big, the diets. But the business stuff, the biggest thing, my takeaway from the whole book was all these people as they grew learning to say no. Yeah. And the subtle art? No, the power of no or something. There's a book about it. It's a hard read, but that was a big one, was learning to no, here's my line in the sand. And it's something I still struggle with. It's hard for me if I got someone wanting to bid and we're not booked out, not to be like, yeah, I'll come over on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But I've learned that I need that time with the family. Yeah.
Well, you have to, right? So no is a full sentence. That's something that my husband had to learn. And he is the opposite. I'm a 4:30 riser, going to bed early, right? I need my rest. He's the opposite. He's the late night entrepreneur. Yeah. And so because he's awake, people will text and call him and he answers because he's awake. And I'm like, but you're setting this tone for them where now it's all the time. So now we'll be on vacation and it's Thursday, but we're out of town. And now they think that they have access to you.
And they get upset when they don't. Yes. And but again, like you said, it's because you've opened the door to that. And I was guilty of that. I would stay up late because before I opened the painting company, I had the martial arts school. I didn't have to be anywhere till that afternoon. Mm-hmm. So I would sit up late and respond to emails, messages, whatever, and then get up later. I heard that on your guys' podcast the other day. I listened to that part where Ryan was talking about that, like during the work week. He's like, man, I'm not that early guy. Some people are like that. So you got to find what works for you. Yeah. But again, that drawing that no in the sand it's so hard. It's hard. And I don't know how people Some people just naturally can do it. I've dealt with people before at 5 o'clock, boom, phone's off. For me, that was something Casey and I really had to work at. But it was dictating our whole life, especially once we got to running. At one point, we had 7 crews going, all these employees, all this stuff. I used to laugh. I'd go bid a job, and everybody would be like, "What's your booking?" Oh, I'm booking out 4 weeks. But Sunday afternoons, a lot of people get in front of that computer. I might wake up on Monday to 12 to 14 jobs, and now I'm booked out 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And people would think it was like a sales trick. And I'd be like, I promise you it's not a sales trick.
Right.
You're my 42nd bid this month or in the past 3 weeks. Like, I'm not making this up because I do 6 or 8 a day sometimes. I'm just trying to be really transparent with you that I may wake up on Monday to Casey going, holy crap, there's a bunch of stuff in the inbox, because people would start signing and paying their deposits. That was super common.
Yeah.
But once we got to that size, we realized that it didn't matter if we just kept working all day and all night. There wasn't enough hours.
No.
We had to stop at some point, because what's the point of having these businesses and working like this if we never get to enjoy it?
Yeah. Well, so that was a big thing in the beginning. Ryan worked all the time, Saturdays, all the time. And we got to the point finally where I had to pull the wife card, which I'm sure Casey pulls on you occasionally, where I had to say, no, we're not working the weekends anymore. And then so we had a compromise where the summertime is our busy season, probably same for you, because I know you're inside, but outside's vital too. And summertime's our busy season. So in the summer, we have a deal that he can work on Saturdays. But as soon as fall hits,
boom,
you are family on Saturday and Sunday. And then on Sundays, we airplane mode the phone. Like you're not accessing us. And if it's an emergency, somebody knows where we live or how to get a hold of us, right?
Yeah.
So we had to make those rules, because in the beginning you are so not just money hungry, but success hungry, and you don't want to fail. And you have that fear of failing that you're just like, yes, I'll do it.
If I don't respond to this could be the last one. Yeah.
And then before you know it, your kids are grown. They don't understand the business because you're probably not bringing them into it like some entrepreneurs do. And then you are standing there alone one day just like, oh, well, I have a successful business, but where's my family at? So.
Yeah. And that was something I realized after a couple years of doing it and hustling so much, was that there has to be a balance. I would see friends that put everything family first, in the aspect of, I'm just going to try to run my business like a 9 to 5. And that doesn't work either. But also I seen the people that worked constantly and were never home, and their kids were growing up to not know them.
Yeah.
So I realized that we had to have some type of a work-life balance.
Yeah.
Staying off the computer. If I want to, if we're hanging out watching a movie and I want to respond to some emails, that's one thing. Casey and I will both do it, but we're not stopping to work. Like, if we're really behind, I might go in and help the crews, but there has to be a balance. I'm lucky with the martial arts that the kids do all that with me.
Yeah.
So when we travel, they're there, but that is a hard one, because there's that old school mentality of just boom, you got to get it done, especially in the summer months.
Yeah.
And then you just sit all winter.
Yeah.
But there's also finding, again, and I hate to use the word balance because that's so beat up these days, but where to draw your line and where to say, okay, this is where it stops.
Yeah.
And that was something with me to where I just constantly, kids were like, oh, going to work again. Like, I'd run to the store. Oh, we going to a job?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is all they think I do. And then people around me be like, oh, you're really driven by money. It's like, no, I'm driven by the success and the fact that I'm able to provide a good life for my family.
Yeah.
But you have to draw those lines. You have to have that, because why have the business and work for ourselves if we don't have the freedom?
Yeah. Well, and people don't, I mean, maybe some people start business for money, right? But I feel like most people start business to have the time to be able to be at the kids' field trips, to be able to have those things. In the beginning, it's hard because you are hustling, which I also, that word hustling.
You love it.
But their balance is a myth, right? You are either doing everything half-assed or you're doing it full steam ahead. So you have to get down to your calendar. And I think once people can perfect their calendar, you can fit in family, fun, and you can fit in the business world aspect of it. And then as your business grows and evolves, you get leverage. You're not the only guy, right? You're not 5 employees, you're 10 employees. And then you can pull away even more. But I think people that think balance is a thing that can happen, or I'll just have my kids later when we're successful. You being in business, you understand that like you may become successful and reach all your dreams, but like it's never over.
No.
Jeremy?
No, and that's what fixed it for me on taking more time on the weekends and stuff, was realizing that I kept telling myself, well, next weekend.
Yeah.
Next weekend. next weekend. Well, if I work this Saturday and we get this job done, and then realizing that like we would go take care of something on a Saturday for a builder, and I'd call them, be like, hey, are you swinging by? I got some questions. So like, I'm off on Saturday.
See.
And I sat there and I'm like, well, then why the fuck am I here? If you're at home spending time with your family, but this project was so important, obviously it wasn't that important.
Right.
Like I would go because of scheduling errors on their part, not my part.
Yeah.
To try to make things happen. And I'd be like, hey, what time are you coming by? I want to look at this under the assumption and my prop. I hate the word assume, but I assumed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, man, I was off. Well, on Thursday, this was 911, got to be done now because you guys had a lapse on a move-in date, but it was only 911 for me.
Yeah.
Oh, and once I realized that and that it was always going to be, I was like, well, we'll just do this one.
Mm-hmm.
And next week it was something else. And I'd open that door. So next week it was something else. And next week I was like, okay, this is just gotta slam this door shut.
Well, yeah, and you have to protect your time. Like I'm almost certain that when you sit down to your Lego thing with the kids, you don't have your phone on you.
No.
Because you're not really present if you're doing Legos with your kids or jump on the trampoline or going to go-karting and you're this every 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not being present either. You have to almost completely separate the two, put time on your schedule for your loved ones first, and then fill it in with work. Because the priority is the family, right?
It is. And you're not, you could do all of it you want, but if you're not having that time, before we started to say, I shot some content with Jeff, and one of the things was, what's your opinion on success? And I was like, being able to provide that lifestyle and that home life for my family. And I realized years into building everything that involved me being there too.
Yeah.
Not just building the business and working all the time. And I like to, and again, I don't like the word hustle either, but because I feel like it's got a slang, like a derogatory term, but I like to hustle. I like to work. I like to be busy. That's why we do the Legos, because it keeps me and Ben busy, and it keeps us from getting like agitated and bored.
Yes.
Because if I'm not doing that, as a youth, I'd go out and work on a car in a garage. I don't have a project car currently. So I got to keep my hands busy.
Yeah.
Or I'll go paint. I'll be like, let's go to the shop. There's got to be something we can sand and work on. Let's go do something.
Yeah.
But it's always one more thing. It's always one more thing. It's always, so you have to draw that line. And I guess maybe more of a juggling act would be the better term than balance. I feel like the word balance has been made into so much like, you have to have that work-life balance and kumbaya and all that. And it's like, well, it's not really what it is. You got 3, axes and they're on fire and you're juggling them. And it's like, okay, I got this one for a minute, so I'm here. But maybe a really good client will send over a question. It's like, cool. Okay, the kids are doing this for a minute. I walked in the kitchen, checked my phone. Oh, let me respond. Or, one of the, maybe I'll put up something and someone will respond. Someone going, oh, hey, thanks,
Yeah.
And set it down and go back with my day.
Yeah.
Like there has to be that juggling act going on there, because you can't just ignore it from 3:00 on Friday to Monday. Can you imagine Monday morning if you just shut your phone off at 3 on Friday? Like I couldn't do it. I can't even imagine I work with too many people that do that.
Mm-hmm.
And their Mondays are crazy. And I'll be like, I took a couple hours Sunday afternoon and checked in on all my stuff. I'm in a good spot. And they're like, well, I wasn't working Sunday. It's like, I find I have to have spots. Like I have to prep some stuff for the week on Sunday afternoon. Otherwise my Monday is just absolutely,
well, so I'm different. So Ryan's like you. Ryan has to have his, what does he call it? Power hour with his foreman on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Where me, I make sure everything I need to get done by Friday is communicated out. I shut down at Friday at 5, and then you don't hear from me until Monday. And I will get emails with people like, hey, just preparing for next week. And I'm like, see you tomorrow at 7 a.m., right? Like I'm not, but
I can't do that part. I gotta shoot them a response and move. I could do it and move on, but I can't just be like, Casey's better at that part. She could be like, okay, see you Monday. Whereas like, if I see it in the email, I'm like, oh, it only take me 3 seconds.
Yeah. Well, Ryan's like that too. I mean, you have to fit in where you fit in, and what works best for you. Where me, I have to be completely unplugged and hang out with my family. But you do something that we do too, which I think is the other end of the balancing part for entrepreneurs, is you bring your kids into your business.
Yes.
Which is great. And I've made comments about their painting pictures that you post. I think that's so amazing. But like my 18-year-old, he school's weird. My husband was a high school dropout. He's a successful entrepreneur and makes 6 or 7 figures,
Yeah.
So it's very hard to tell your teenage kids, like, you have to graduate, you have to do these things, you know what I mean? Because they're like, Dad didn't, look at everything we have, right?
Yeah.
So we started bringing them in on the business, if that was working like a side job or getting a job done or teach them, whatever that looked like, or building something with them. And because of that, my 18-year-old is starting, he's going to graduate this spring, and he is starting his own lawn care company. And
yeah, it's awesome.
When I said to him, though, is you don't understand, you can't give up. This can't be like you're hyper fixated because it's cool. And he said back to me, well, no, I want this lifestyle. I don't want my lifestyle to change. That's why I'm doing this. I was like, okay, cool. So bringing them in on the work wasn't, like upsetting to them. They were appreciative of it.
Yeah, my kids love it. And I look back at that because you will see interviews of people that were like, oh, my parents were self-employed. They worked all the time, blah, 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 blah. Whereas they love it. They fight over who gets to go. The other day we did a local job in town, and I wanted to bring, we did some stuff recently, and I was watching Jocelyn with her paintbrush, and I'm like, she's doing pretty good. So I wanted to bring her and let her try cutting some stuff in a little bit. And just, it was that first super cold day. Casey's like, just let them sleep. Let them sleep. They've had a long day. I'm like, that's cool, whatever. So I just went. But bringing them in and letting them see that entrepreneurial side, people are like, well, are you going to pass the business to them one day? I was like, well, I would hope they want to do their own thing. Right now, they're 9 and 10. They argue over who gets to take over which business. Jocelyn, we were painting some boxes at the place, and she's mini Casey, and she was letting Ben know that he doesn't cut in as good as she is. He's way, 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 way below her on painting level, that she was going to run the painting company and she'd have some painters, and she was like laying into him about it, and was trying to tell him that he was like going to run the martial arts school. She's like, well, but I'll probably have to help you up there too, because I have multiple open weight belts and you don't. She had to take like one little extra dig, and he just kind of looked at me. I'm like, you two will figure it out later. You're 9 and 10. Like they were bickering about it. But I think we set that example as parents being entrepreneurial, that I would hope they want to be an entrepreneur. If they don't, I would hope that those values and all of that then do follow them in their career. Yes. And that's, I think in the back of our minds is our goal. Like we want to motivate those around us, but at the same time, we want to make sure they follow and are successful too, and are driven like that. And I see some people that do it wrong, to where their kids think everything should be handed to them because mom and dad owned a business and had money to do things. Yeah. Whereas I think we run a good enough job to not do that. I would hope that's the goal. I wouldn't want them to grow up to be that entitled or.
Well, I feel like kids need to earn and deserve it.
Yes.
That's so our youngest, he's very young still, and he's always like, well, I'm just going to own Extreme. My name's Ryan Jr.
Yeah.
It's, my rite of passage. Yeah. And I'm always like, that's great, but you may be going to business school then. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not just handing it over to you, buddy. Like, you're going to earn and deserve it. And that's going to start with being an apprentice and digging a hole in your first day and getting blisters, like that. You're going to be a laborer first, buddy. Like, you have to kind of direct that course. Now, are they spoiled rotten? Sure. But they've also earned and deserved that too. And they have good intentions and they're good to people and, on the backside.
And you have good kids. And that's what's important. That's the thing. Like, we do the Legos. Well, we're a competitive family. Game night? Game night's atrocious. Oh my gosh. The last game night ended up with Casey storming out, Ben crying on the couch, and Jocelyn in her room. And I was like, we're done with game nights. They literally, the three of them were arguing. Ben didn't understand the rules. I didn't care. Jocelyn and Casey were going to town on who was actually right and whose turn was next. And neither one will back down. They will die on that hill.
Yeah.
There has been times that Casey's like, Jocelyn, one more time out of you. And Jocelyn slid her stuff back and she did it one more time. And I grabbed Casey to hug her. And I'm like, Jocelyn, go to your room. Run. Jocelyn looked at me and goes, no.
Oh, no.
I was like, okay, go with God, child, go with God. And I released Casey. I'm like, just go, you do what you got to do, baby. Go spank her butt. Because they're the same. It turned out, so we do the Lego. And I know there's people are probably like, oh, and our $300 Lego. Yeah, because Ben's really good at them. And the $80 ones, they only last us about an hour.
Yeah.
We're looking at an Avenger one that's like 5,500 pieces. It should take us a couple weekends. And I'm like, that's worth $500. Couple weekends, let's do it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. It keeps my brain busy with ADHD and everything. It keeps me focused and gives me something to do. It's teaching them a skill. It's helping control them. They're not on a tablet. They're not in front of a video game, which I'm not anti those things, but I am when that's all they do.
Yeah.
Some people I know it's their way of vegging out and relaxing. Cool.
Sure.
You do it. As long as you're getting your shit done. I know a lot of really productive people that still like to take some time with it. But that's our goal as parents, is to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and to provide those things. As long as you don't come by the house with a pig. We're good. Golly.
That's
Someone posted piglets the other day, and I was like, how do I block Casey from seeing this? Because she just come running through the house here. I forgot what I was doing. She's like, are you paying attention to me? And it was your I'm fast as fuck boy.
Oh, yeah.
For him running around. And I was like, he's cute. I get it. She's like, look at him. Look at him. She kept like saying it. I'm like, yeah, I can hear the video too. Like she was dying. I'm like, we're not getting a pig. No. I was like, if we get a pig, I'm going to befriend it, and it's going to be my best friend, not yours, just like the dogs are. So dogs follow me all around the house. Casey's like, I need a friend. And I'm like, quit bringing dogs home because they like me more than you.
Yeah, right. I understand that. So she just continues to send me things that I buy, and then
that's what she told me. She's like, I'll just send it to Ashley. She can go get it. So, well, this was great having you on. I appreciate you coming in, sitting down, talking about Master Networks. This has been the fun thing with this for me is getting to have these long-term, longer format conversations with people. And what's cool is to have people back on. So I'll definitely reach out to you. I'm trying to build this up to do it multiple times a week. So thank you guys for tuning in, checking out the Lincoln County podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe, and get those followers on there for us. Help us out. Share it. We appreciate it. We're going to keep bringing you more awesome local business people and just people in your community that love Lincoln County like we do. Thank you. Thank you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County podcast.